Da, 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 da. Welcome, everyone. Hello to the VR Gamescast, live every Thursday. I'm Zeena. I'm going to be your host, and joining me is the one, the only, Ian Hamilton.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I don't have baby hands, but that was pretty cool when it happened earlier.
Yeah. Ian, before this stream started, got one of his kids to put his hands in place of his, and it reduced his hand size down to baby hand size, and it was hilarious. You got to take my word for this.
Yeah.
Also joining me this week is the one of many, Jamie Feltham.
Do you think there's more than one Jamie Feltham in the world?
Oh, God, yeah.
You think? I think Feltham's a pretty uncommon surname. I've never met another Feltham.
There's many Zeena Alabades.
To be fair,
I thought everyone in England had your last name.
No. It's Scottish apparently as well. So definitely not in England. Maybe I should go to Scotland and find out. But I mean, it kind of balances out because then Jamie's like the most common name ever. So I guess maybe you're probably right.
Forget Muhammad.
Jamie's like the most popular one.
Jamie's up there.
Okay, fine. In the Western world. Anyway, today's podcast is brought to you by the complaint that when you press the Oculus quick action thing, you get the new colored tiles, right? They're lovely, except the library one.
No, they suck.
Is a color gray, so it's just the same color, and I keep looking at it thinking that's the settings, not that's my library. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Gray.
I hate it.
Gray is settings. That is a universal thing for it, isn't it?
Just get it right. All right. Just please get it right. Let's continue.
Anyway, we are not alone, of course. We've got people here with us live on YouTube. Oh, my hand's disappeared. So, Adam Hartzell, how are you doing, boy? How are you? If you love VR, type I love VR with your nose. Give it a go, I guess. There's also Smash Reality. How are you doing, Smash Reality? Finally remember to join at the start. Thank you. We love having you here from the start. Onakazi, thank you for joining us. Greetings and salutations. Gentleman with 2 N. I love VR noses. Thank you.
Nosed. Also, hello, also Bafooligan. But also Onakazi points out that Weezer even made a song named Jamie, which is because it's so super common. But that is a great song.
It is a wonderful song.
A blue
Lucky Do. Hello,
anyway,
Zeena. Hello, Lucky Do. Purple Mikey. Yin Qian Yap. Hi, hello, everyone. And of course, this is on various audio streaming services too. So thank you for joining us. Hey, Toy.
Sorry.
Thank you for also joining us there. Special shout out to our members. You might see that some people have got really cool colored names in the chat. Our members include Devin Miller, Matthew May, Rick Tet, Robert Quinones, Steve Evans, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, John Westra, Dominic Frackman. Thank you for continuing to support us. If you want to support us in a different way other than becoming a member, there's Super Chat, and you can also buy one of our t-shirts. Oh, check that out down there. All right. Let's
also
get
send
into
me some money in an envelope. I live in Sheffield.
Isn't that a bad thing? Like, illegal to send money in the post?
Maybe internationally, but I think in the UK you can send a $5. Send me a $5.
Send me a $5. Go on.
Buy me a beer via the post.
Go on. So we got a few news stories this week to get through before we get on to which games we are looking forward to this month. And then Ian will be filling us in on Puzzling Places. I'm allowed to say that, aren't I? Yes. Puzzling Places, which our review will be going live in an hour or so. So hopefully we will be ready by then. Before all of that, there are so many layers to this podcast. Oh my God. We have a new Upload Access title. For this month, it is Unplugged. Let's see if we can get that up.
My cats are fighting right below my head.
Oh, is that what I can hear?
Hearing that in the background.
Is it cats?
Yeah. I was like, man, your kids are making some weird sounds.
We've got a new kitten in the house, and it is
really
to fight the powers that be.
Cute. That's
I love that you don't panic when you hear cat fights. Jamie and I, we've got lots of cats living outside in the garden, and we have to run to the window every single time we hear something.
Like,
Yeah.
If
Cat
the,
fights
if
are
the cat
vicious,
starts
man.
crawling up my leg, I might scream a little bit. But
Yeah, that's
okay.
okay.
That happens.
Yee! With your little baby hands. Yee! Anyway, Unplugged is our upload access title for this month. Upload access is basically our way of diving deep into upcoming titles that we are really excited about. So as you can see, week 1. So this week we will have new gameplay with Marcus Henderson. If you don't know who Marcus Henderson is, he's the guy that did Guitar Hero, right?
Yeah, he
There we go.
so he was brought on as like a kind of producer. I actually not half an hour ago was speaking to Marcus for the first time in an interview we'll bring you later in the month. But he worked on the first Guitar Hero game when they didn't use like original masters. He did a re-recording of a lot of songs, and then he was kind of producer for the next couple. And now, he's working with the Unplugged team, and he's over in the US doing kind of producing and a bit of promotion and stuff like that. And obviously, the game itself is developed by Another Way in Holland, I think. So. Yeah, cool. It's cool. He's a really good guy to chat to. I've just had a really entertaining interview with him. And later in the month, as you can see down at the bottom, we'll be in here live talking about it as well. And that'll be. I'm really looking forward to that interview specifically because that'll be after we've revealed when the game's coming out and the full track list. How cool is that we get to reveal the full track list like an actual Guitar Hero kind of game?
Yeah, that is just amazing, really. I'm really excited for this. Like, especially they were in our showcase, weren't they? And we kind of had a deep dive into that, and it looked so freaking cool. So yeah, there you go. Check it out. It's on UploadVR.com. Come join us every week as we reveal more and more. But
Smash
then,
Reality not feeling it. I like how Unplugged takes all the fun of flawlessly pretending to play guitar and adds strict rules and fail states without the benefits of actually learning guitar.
I like that because it's like pretty much the same description of every music game right there, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's not much different.
I mean, that's Guitar Hero, isn't it? Like,
but no, I mean, but to that point, Smash Reality, I kind of spoke with them a bit about that in that interview, and I think there's some interesting points to hit on there. Oh, but he's still going to play it. Of course you are. We all, yeah.
Of course we are. All right, let's get into the news. Not that wasn't news, but this is news not to do with us. This year's Tokyo Game Show will be going ahead in VR from September 30th. According to the show's own description, you'll be able to meet your favorite characters and visit booths styled after game worlds. This is apparently the first ever mainstream gaming event to show in VR. They even describe it as a grand experiment. I love this. I think this is awesome, especially after Virtual Market, which was basically it was hardware, wasn't it? It was a hardware show.
It was a bunch of different things. You're right, Ian.
The cats are just going at it so strong. I'm so sorry. It's just really bad back there.
Hey man, go join PSVR without parole.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So
we're off the rails now. Here we go.
We're off the rails.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to one cat, and hopefully that'll keep fighting it back.
I never understand how you can hold a cat blindfolded. It just seems like an incredibly brave thing to be doing. But a braver man than I, clearly.
Anyway, this is especially cool because there was also Virtual Market, which was an event that was themed. You can walk through. It was in VR chat. However, this has got its own app. Jamie, you visited Virtual Market, right?
Yeah, Virtual Market for me was the best event I've seen done in VR chat so far, and that it was a Japanese focused thing that had a lot of big names. Had Disney as a big sponsor, so there was lots of Disney Plus adverts, film themed content. This isn't Disney, but it had that little weird Netflix show you watch with the hamster car things. But I can't remember what it's called. But we all drive your cars. Anyway,
it's on Netflix.
Google that. and so, but I saw that a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first time that I've been in a live VR event. That I thought, it's actually getting to the point where you could offer a pretty compelling experience doing this. I think people have promised this sort of thing in the past.
Chuck
And
that cat down there.
Bad kitty, where are you, bad kitty?
Right under where
What do you mean? Look. What do you mean? He's right in front of where I am.
It's right under where Jamie is. I don't know how else to do it.
We need pass through in the studio. We need to give away our private lives.
Artful said he needs to make a VR cat for right now.
Yeah, or you need to just stick Vive trackers to it, or to your one, or something like that.
Yeah.
So the events I've seen recently have convinced me that we can start maybe actually doing this, and I'm really glad Tokyo Game Show are doing it. We were talking about this, and we said maybe it's a good idea that we don't know if this will be an online social thing yet, and I think maybe it would be a good idea not to have it as an online social thing this year, and kind of get the bones of it down. But they might go in that direction. We don't know. And that would be a good way of like proving it out and proving that it can actually work.
Yeah.
It's just very weird with
without the complications. Yeah, Ian, what the heck, man?
Anyway. Yeah, and I think it's so cool. So the exhibitors are like, it's going to have like Square Enix in there, Bandai Namco in there, Sega in there. And then, so obviously those guys are going to be showing, just their mainline non-VR games, because as far as we know, Square doesn't have a VR game, Bandai Namco and everyone like that. I'm not sure they're doing much in the space right now. So they're going to be talking about, your Final Fantasies and your Yakuzas and whatnot. I think
not even really... VR games. That's the great thing about it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool. There are going to be some VR games like My Dearest, who do Alt Deus and Tokyo Chronos.
Yeah.
And they've announced their third game. They're going to be there. And so that's cool to see some VR games in with it. But I just think it's so cool that other companies, without really embracing VR development yet, are trying out this cool new means of marketing. And I can't wait to see what they do with the booths, because a lot of people, dream of going to E3 and being able to walk around E3 just as it is as a standard experience. But obviously in VR, you can do some really, really cool things. So,
or even TGS. I mean, I really want to go to TGS for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go to TGS big time, but and I really hope we get to see them properly act on it. It's going to be a native Oculus, like available natively on Quest, which I think is very important. Cool. And I hope that means we do get, some sort of announcement that they're releasing something on the store that you download for the weekend or whatever, or the week.
Yeah.
And you get to play with it. Like maybe there's some Facebook involvement in there. That would be really cool.
I mean, touching on the stalls that are going to be, themed after Game Worlds, you could, like, Jamie, you've got the Half-Life Alyx home environment right now, don't you?
Oh yeah, but don't tell Oculus, because they tell you not to do that. But
whoopsies! It could be that kind of vibe though. Like you literally go in and it's like a home environment, and maybe things are floating around, or like that would be so freaking cool. And I cannot wait to see what they do with it.
No, I do too. I think we should pay a lot of attention to it when it's up and running, and see if we can all get in there at the same time if it is a multiplayer thing, and see what kind of experience we have, because they said they're laying the foundation for the future, and if they get it right, like they're going to beat like Facebook to market on this kind of idea at the end of the day, which is crazy to me.
Most of the West are just kind of. So I said this on Twitter. It's the whole thing of Asia is actually doing stuff in VR. They're doing the stuff that the West is like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? They're like, whatever. We're moved past. Isn't this cool? We're doing it. We're actually trying to move this forward, and I love that. I love that a lot.
But then it could all just be a pile of goo. It could be absolutely terrible, and we don't like it.
Yeah, but it's the foundations. It's the foundations, right? They're actually
this is true.
Going ahead with it, so then people can build on what they've done, and then hopefully, it's really good, because again, with virtual markets in VR chat, it turned out really awesome. So if they can match that somehow, that'd be great. Like,
Ian, are you going to come to Tokyo with us virtually?
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'm curious about the distribution. You guys, like you mentioned, there's a couple like third party. There's a couple of social services that like white label their service, or moving sort of in that direction where they're willing to let others reskin it and re-release some of their basic tools. I'm curious how they're going to choose for this. I always hate it. Think about the app explosion that we used to have on phones, where there was like an app for everything, and then over the course of 6 months, that app would break and never be usable again. I'd hate to see sort of the Oculus Store flooded with those types of apps that stay usable for a short amount of time, break, and so I'm curious about the distribution method, like you guys were talking about.
Yeah, I guess to me, I kind of wonder if there's something we've not heard about Facebook Connect yet, and that maybe there could be this sort of element to it this year, because it is happening later in the year as well, like a good month later than usual. And I would really love to see Facebook actually act on that this year and have something, even if it's just like a couple of extra limited time rooms in whatever they built for Horizon or something, just to come in and see. Like what they have with the Horizon beta, they could definitely roll it out and do something really, really cool there, even if it's just come look at all of our announcements and product renders or something.
Well, on that point,
yep.
Yes, Sidebook VR gave us $5,000. No, I don't really know what currency that is. I'm really sorry to say. Does anyone else?
No, but it's great all the same.
Yeah. They said, would you try to do an episode in Horizon Workrooms?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Oh, Korean. Thank you.
We could possibly. Wow, that's so
that
cool.
in an actual note form. That would be so cool to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I went in there with Harry over a couple days ago now. It's all blurry because I was sick this week, but it was right before I got sick. I went in there and did a workroom session with Harry, and it was cool to be able to see. He was able to see where my keyboard was. We were able to pretty effectively pull up. I think his YouTube was working for us to share a YouTube video to talk about in the middle.
Can you see your cat?
Think other DRM. Yeah, and I was talking about my cat, of course. And that's what's great about you've got the pass-through keyboard. So if you do have a keyboard cat that likes laying on your desk, you could keep an eye on the cat through the keyboard view, I suppose. But yeah, he was able to see my keyboard moving around the space, and we were able to talk a little bit. And I showed him the drawing feature where you turn the touch controller around and turn it into a pen on your desk, and we were both marking up on the wall. He's actually a really good artist. He drew a great Simpsons Homer Simpson up on the wall, and then wrote the Simpsons name right next to it, and it looked really, really good.
I bet that was something that he just drew the entirety of his school career, right? That was probably this is all leading up to this point.
He's a very talented man. He's a very talented man.
There was a question. How would we even do that with other in-app cameras or anything? I'm not sure.
I'm sure you can. I'm pretty sure you could probably cast as you're doing it, right, and then record from there. But maybe not.
Well, that's the thing.
There's always a selfie camera.
We actually did this studio. I mean, we did this podcast in Rec Room years ago, trying to set up another view as the camera, and nothing has. I can pretty safely say, after years of being in the software that Heaney's sort of honed, there's nothing that we ever had in a shared social space that could match kind of the just how finely tuned everything in here is for our specific, what we exactly need. And it's hard to imagine doing that in workrooms or anything else, even though there's a lot of overlap in features there. The audio is incredible in there.
I mean, believe it or not, I literally just read off of a script that I've written on here. I'm not making this stuff up. On this screen, I've got the chat here and my script there, and then I can go between choosing which YouTube videos to chuck up on the TV. There's lots and lots of things to this show that we do it so seamlessly you don't even notice. So yeah, we could give it a go in workrooms one week, but we would definitely never really change from this platform, which again was purpose made just by David Heaney on the UploadVR team. Or we could connect to a non-VR user.
The one thing that doesn't really work is our AI cat removal system. That still doesn't work.
I had to go. I removed the kitten from the room so that there is hopefully no cat fights in the background anymore.
Kitten-free disturbance.
My apologies.
Someone asked earlier if we had spoken about Pico yet. I don't think we're going to touch on Pico today.
Pico's a Monday topic, right?
Yeah, it's more of a Monday topic. Go for it.
We were ramping up to talk about it earlier this week when we canceled the podcast because I was under the weather, and I think we'll probably get into that on the separate podcast just for Pico because it's going to be a big deal, something to talk about long term, and we'll get into it. But it's a little bit sideways from games. Like as soon as whatever they do next in this acquisition process could have a big impact on games, but we're not even there yet in the discussion.
Yeah, in the meantime, you can go check out our Pico video on this YouTube channel. We just kind of run down everything to do with it and the kind of questions around Pico and the Quest and how it is as a competitor. But anyway, we're going to move on to the next story, which is Warhammer Age of Sigmar Tempestfall has been delayed, but it's still expected to come this year. After initially being announced after initially being announced to oh my god, it was going to come out in summer, but now it's coming out Q4.
I love how like confident you're getting in the podcast now that when you make a mistake, you're not like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's just bah.
My apologies, everyone. That was not very podcasty of me. It was based on feedback. They went into a closed beta testing round, and they had some bits to improve on. Apparently, I think lots of people are looking forward to this game, though. But it is like the third or fourth game to be pushed down. Pushed along.
It's kind of weird for this one. I mean, we were in contact with them to be in the summer showcase, which ended up slipping. And it's, I think when I first spoke to Carbon about it, like a year and a half ago now, they were hoping to have it out in May of this year. So I think it's like been pushed a couple of times.
Scooted, yeah.
But that's how everything works in the particular environment we find ourselves in right now. I'm kind of encouraged by it because from the gameplay they revealed earlier in the year, I gotta be honest, I looked at it and I was kind of a bit like, I don't know if this is like really going to build on the wizards in a really, really good way. I'm not sure the sword combat looks just right. But then what they did when they shared the news of the delay is they showed like a GIF of how they're improving the blocking and stuff. And now it's got that kind of until you fall system of like,
exactly.
It indicates. Yeah. And I think this is going to be really interesting because it looked like the first attack from the enemy was indicated with a lightning strike. So you blocked that. And then you had to do the whole kind of thing of judging based on their movements, a bit more like the Vader Immortal melee system. So I'm really glad they're going back into that and taking a deeper dive on it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Carbon are really good in terms of visual finesse, visual fidelity. And I think visually it looks amazing on PC. We haven't seen it on Quest yet, but they did a pretty good job with the Wizards Dark Times on Quest.
Yeah, for sure.
And the first Wizards as well, actually. So I'm kind of hopeful for this. I think this news of this delay has moved it up a bit more in my hopes chart than if they would. What I was expecting was they were going to say, just like every other VR game right now, they were going to say, all right, it's out next Thursday. And it would come out and not really do much. So I'm a bit more looking forward to it now.
It's definitely looking a lot more like a way bigger game than I anticipated because, they're going to be improving the blocking system and character progression as well as rewards for players to like explore other environments within the game. So it just looks like they're fleshing it out a lot more. It's definitely bigger than what I thought it would be. For sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes because I think Battle Sister, the other Warhammer game, which is set in the 40k universe that came out last year, I think that was good. It was a little simple in terms of like its campaign structure, but I think for fans of the series, it would have been really, really satisfying. I'm kind of hoping that Warhammer fans will get a bit more out of this one for sure. But we'll see.
Yeah, it looks way more kind of dark and sinister compared
Grizzly.
to what Grizzly. You compared Battle Sister to kind of like big fat chunky gun toys and things
that's
like
what
that.
I
It was very
the
chunky.
clash of metal and bone and sinew. That's a Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is
that.
what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
How about
Ian,
it?
you got
How
any
about it?
opinions?
Oh, I'm looking at the comment here talking about Song in the Smoke. Someone saying they're really hopeful for it, and they haven't shown much gameplay for that game. And I was thinking about that one. It did look interesting when we saw the trailer for that.
Well, we're going to talk. I'm right in thinking that our topic for the week is the big long list of September games and what we're looking forward to most, right? So we'll talk about Song in the Smoke in a bit. But
yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So we'll move on to what was our last story, but another story actually broke. So that's going to be our fourth story. Our third story is that Devolver Digital, the publisher behind Gorn and Serious Sam, apparently has a new VR game on the way. Clara Sia, who is Devolver's influencer strategy team member, put out a tweet. I love this story, by the way. Put out a tweet asking for game testers with VR headsets. It appears to be an unannounced game because Clara said that she would be punting people into the sun if they spoke about it. So very, very, very serious there. What do you guys think this game could be?
I feel pretty confident, and I don't. This is entirely speculation, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be something in the Serious Sam realm. That series has had a lot of VR support from Crow Team, who also did Talos Principle, which also got a VR support. So they're clearly a developer that cares a lot about the medium and wants to push things forward with it. They did Serious Sam, the Last Hope, I think it was called. Do you remember that really early wave shooter? And then the first 3 Serious Sam games, which to the PC shooter community are considered classics. They've all had VR support as well. And then Serious Sam 4 came out at the end of last year. So I kind of have it in my mind that maybe it might be a VR port of that. Devolver also published Gorn, which obviously has been incredibly successful in terms of the VR market. But I don't know. Free Lives are working on another kind of like city building sim at the most, so I don't know if they've got the headspace for a Gorn 2 as much as I would love to see it, and I do think we'll see it at some point maybe.
But if you're saying your guess is Serious Sam, do you think it's an original game or is it another port?
I think it's probably Serious Sam for VR. I think, seeing as all Serious Sam 1 to 3 had VR support.
You mentioned this developer, but this was all quite a few years ago, wasn't it? Like this, I think this is from 2017. I remember when I went to E3, I think I played it.
Serious Sam 4 or the VR one?
The VR one. They haven't done any VR stuff recently. Am I right in saying that?
No, it's been a while, but then they haven't had any other. They basically ported all their games to VR, I think. So that's why. But that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And it was interesting looking at the reaction to this story on the site and on social media once we published it, because people were saying, "Oh yeah, the VR renaissance continues," and like publishers are starting to actually pay attention and look at VR as a good market again. And it's interesting. Devolver is one of those guys that they're not going to put out a huge AAA release, like the size of someone like Sony or Microsoft will do. But I do think it's encouraging that they're clearly sticking around in the VR market 5 years in. And I hope it's something other than Serious Sam for VR. But if that's what I expect, and if it is that, I also wouldn't really be too disappointed, because it looks like a high-end kind of shooter, what people want.
So you're thinking there's little to no hope of it being a new IP?
Well, it's not little to no hope. It's just that, if I were to make an educated guess, there are two developers Devolver's worked with to do VR games, which is Pro Team and...
Yeah.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Good? Yeah, you're frozen, though.
Okay. No.
There you are.
You came back.
Yeah, so I from an educated guess, it would be one of those two, but I don't know.
Speaking of educated guesses, Bafooligan says Fall Guys VR Lamau.
That's not a Devolver game, though. Is it?
No, I think they.
I think they published it, maybe.
Oh, did they? Did they really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it does.
Have,
yeah, it does make sense. I would like to see Devolver announce this game during one of their famous E3 shows, where maybe they put a headset on and someone blows up or something like that. That'd be fun.
I did actually watch last year's one. I watched the previous 3 years of theirs.
Those are your favorite kind of E3 shows, the ones where games aren't. No games are announced. They just do stupid stuff for 3 hours.
Yeah, I think they sold T-shirts and things like that for thousands of dollars, and maybe some people bought it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was that kind of vibe.
Smash Reality just pointed out that I said Renaissance wrong. I should have said Renaissance. Sorry. I said that round the right way this time, right? I should say Renaissance, not Renaissance.
What are the
Renaissance.
What is the word I have a problem with? Patent? What's a patent?
Patent or a patent? Is that what you mean? Or
yeah.
patent? Or
it's the
I was struggling. I was struggling with emphasis the other day.
Today you're yeah.
When when spell check isn't there to save you, you're like, I can just spell this wrong and spell check will get me. And then you right click on it and then it says no word suggested and you're just in this horrible limbo where you're like, did I just make this word up? What's going on? That's the existential crisis I had earlier today.
All right, on to this news story that just broke as we went live. We're allowed to talk about this, right? For sure.
I hope so, because if we're not, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. But it is live on the website, so
I got an email. I got an email when it went live that suggested that this news is public.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, let me get it going on the TV. Oh, you pressed it
on the TV. I pressed it. All right. Whatever.
Anyway, Alchemy has a new game. Oh my gosh. Alchemy's got a new game, and it's not a job simulator variant. Surprisingly, it's called Cosmonius High. Jamie, you covered the story. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I just tried to check my emails as well, and I lifted up the headset, and the first thing it said was OWC. So I thought, Alchemy announces Jellyfish Manager 2.0. So I think I'm looking at the wrong email. That's a really weird coincidence. They literally just announced this half an hour ago, 35 minutes ago. And it is an interesting one. So it's Alchemy, who, like you said, owned by Google, did Job Simulator, Vacation Simulator, and Rick and Morty Virtual Reality. It's their first new IP since Job Simulator, and obviously you can technically count Rick and Morty as a new IP they've worked on, but it's not a new IP. And this is, I think, the most interesting thing about this is, if you look at this trailer, it's very Alchemy in spirit. It's completely vibrant. The humor is really, really there. And I think this is something Ian will want to speak to as well. Is what is the end game for Alchemy as just this weird development studio that Google owns, even as Google has retreated so much from the VR space in the past year, ditching Built-Brush, getting rid of Poly. And then obviously a couple of years ago now, Daydream's been dead for quite a long time now, and Alchemy just never, I don't think Alchemy ever even, maybe they did some AR experiments for it, but I don't think they ever released a proper product. I could be wrong about that. So I want to know what the thinking behind this game is. Is it another one of these kind of Alchemy experiments where they're going to try a bunch of crazy new interactions and try and push a lot of VR development forward? Because that's kind of where we were with Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator. They're two of VR's most popular titles, but really they are tech demos for, different kinds of VR interactions. And I'm really curious to get inside Cosmonius High, which I think looks funny and fun, and see if they're really fleshing this kind of stuff out into a full game now, or if it is going to be that continuation of, actually, here's just a bunch of different kind of interconnected mini games that kind of form a nice, entertaining, interactive package.
It didn't necessarily capture my imagination. I kind of feel sorry to say it's almost too sickly sweet for me. It looks very cute, but it's kind of it looks like a disguised chore simulator, like the Simpsons VR chore simulator sort of thing. I don't like this guy. I don't trust him whatsoever. The broccoli thing. Okay. I don't really like it. Well, we'll see. Is it going to be super sickly sweet, or is it going to have like a weird twisted sense of humor when you get into it? That'd be kind of cool.
I think what you're looking for when you see a trailer from certain VR developers, especially someone like Alchemy, that was so inventive right there at the start and was so dedicated to all this kind of focus on immersion and native VR design. I think you're looking for a hook in the trailer where you think, oh my god, that's going to feel amazing in VR, right? And shooting water out of your hands and shooting ice out of your hands, they're cool ideas, but we've kind of seen them elsewhere. I think the things that interest me most are, am I going to be feeling like I'm really talking to these characters, and am I going to be having really cool interactions with them? Because the character design, I think, has been based around what really works with VR, which is these big, wide-eyed characters that you really feel the intensity of a stare of. And in there, you see this kind of communication system where you select an emote and like flick it towards them as a way to respond. And I'm really interested to see what kind of impact that has as well. So, yeah, less about the interaction. That side didn't excite me so much. But in the same sense that I loved Floor Plan 2 earlier this year, I'm really looking forward to interacting with these characters and feeling like they're right in front of me and seeing what they do there.
Yeah, we only get sort of a glimpse in this. We only get sort of a glimpse in this trailer of like it looked like there was a choice system in sort of how you want to respond, and I'm curious how much of an impact that has on the range of those interactions with these other characters. Hearing them respond the same way dozens of times could get pretty aggravating, and we can't really make a sense of how much variety they've built into that interaction system just from this trailer alone, and I can't wait to see and test how that works. Like, are you interacting with these people all the time? Like, are there some quests that are just interacting with these people, or like you said, is there like a lot of mini games here? Then you're spending 90% of your time in like the same 5 mini games.
I'm hoping to test their patience. I want to abuse them. I hope there's the choice to do that. I want to ruin that broccoli's life, pretty much.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I want to. Oh yeah. I hope there's an animation if you slap
want to steam him.
I want to steam that little alien broccoli.
Make him that good yellowy color when you've overdone it.
Good yellowy color.
Yeah, well, it's not good because then you've overdone your broccoli. I mean, the interesting thing about it is that I think I gave Vacation Simulator 4 stars when I reviewed it, and I think looking back on it now, maybe I was a bit, but maybe I was a bit too generous. I think it's telling that. I mean, this is always one of the hard things about like having a launch title that becomes quite definitive. I don't think Vacation Simulator was able to dethrone Job Simulator as like that definitive go-to experience for a variety of reasons, and I'm just really, even after seeing this trailer, I want to find what's here that is going to like help them, dethrone, unthrone, Job Sim maybe, and make this the new definitive Alchemy Labs title and put them back in that kind of top spot.
Yeah, maybe. Smash Reality says, does Zeena play The Sims like a tortured dungeon simulator? I get those vibes from her. Let's just say I've built a pool with no exit once or twice.
Have you ever had made them have a baby and then just built a wall around the baby?
You do it to the babies?
Yeah. Or when a burglar comes in and then you just build a wall around the burglar. That's my favorite. Then they really deserve it, don't they?
All right, Jamie clearly does more of the torture over what I've done. I've just done the pool and the walls.
You leave people to drown in a pool they can't get out of.
Edgar
Like
Allan
pee-pee poo-poo
Poe
in it.
stuff from you guys. This is scary.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, I just hear splashes and I go crazy from hearing splashes, being reminded. Oh, God. Anyway. Halloween's coming. How about it? I'm
Only
excited.
2 months away. Only 2 months away.
Only 2 months. All right. So I don't think many people are really vibing this game that much. Someone said My Little Pony vibes as well.
Our audience wants. I think a lot of people in
mature.
our audience wants the Boneworks, the Alexes of this world, right? But at the end of the day, you go into Township Tale and it's filled with kids, and there is a huge market for that, even if technically by Quest 2's rules there shouldn't be. So I definitely think there's going to be an interesting market for it when it's out. It's coming 2022 to Quest and PC. No PlayStation announcement yet, but we're expecting PS5 VR to be out next year as well. So,
cool. So that is just about it for the news stories. You can check out all of those stories over at UploadVR.com. As always, now we're going to move on to which games we're really looking forward to this month. There's actually quite a few games coming out. And before, this is before we get on to Puzzling Places. We're not going to talk about it too much. Just going to remind ourselves. But do you want me to just run through the list of the games releasing? Yep, Ian's giving us a nod.
Okay, okay, do it that way.
So we have got Puzzling Places. We've got Goliath, which is a Venice Film Festival experience about schizophrenia and the gaming community. We've got Ian's favorite, which I'm just already saying is your favorite. The Space Pirate Trainer DX update. That's it. He doesn't even need to speak anymore.
Yeah, Mike's muted, but he's nodding.
There's Brink Traveler, which is kind of similar to Puzzling Places, but without the puzzling aspect. Clash of Chefs, which is pretty much an Overcooked style game. The long-awaited Song in the Smoke. The Saints and Sinners Aftershocks update. Ionia. Jurassic World Aftermath Part 2. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Part 2. And a game that Jamie doesn't really know the title of, and I was adding it last minute. Table of Tales?
The PC VR version of Table of Tales.
Table of Tales.
Which is kind of a Demio kind of vibe. Just not multiplayer.
Cool. That's the list for this month's releases. And of course, there are going to be other games announced throughout the month. Now that we know Ian's favorite game, and Jamie, what's your game that you're looking forward to?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you know what? Even before coming into the podcast, I hadn't actually really thought about that. I gotta say, so the trailer for the second part of Star Wars, I actually really liked it, and I think visually, I know the first part looked good, and I think this is probably on par, but still, just looking at it, you're like, really? That's on a Quest? That looks incredible. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't actually played the first part of Galaxy's Edge because when it came out, there was the news that there would be the second part, and I'm someone that likes to save the whole thing for one go. And I'm looking forward to experiencing these two parts together as a complete whole. Having said that, I wonder what the reaction is going to be to it being a $10. I think it's a separate app. It's either DLC or it's a separate app where you can get both of them for $35. So I'm very interested to see what the reaction to having to pay for that second part is going to be. It adds 2 new tales, which are when you listen to the bar guy and then his story comes to life in different parts of the galaxy, and then a bunch of different missions on Batuu, which is the planet from the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Disney attraction as well. And I've really grown to this idea of, if you want to do the cool Star Wars wish fulfillment stuff, why not just have a game where you split all of those into the 20-minute really focused, distilled action segments, rather than what they did with something like Vader Immortal, which was those half an hour free installments. So I'm kind of hopeful for it. I will definitely be diving in as soon as we get a code for that one. And then It's been a long time now, and I think it's been over a year since the last Saints and Sinners update. And I actually think, the Aftershocks update, which is doing more story stuff, like end game content that you can go out and find, like new supply caches in the world, and they've remixed enemy placements and stuff like that. I actually think that's probably it's kind of sad to say it, but I actually think that's kind of one of the bigger releases of this holiday season, right? Like, I say this every podcast, and I say this every podcast, but that game and the other ones are like such huge releases. There was such a sweet spot in the release calendar at that point in time, and we haven't really seen anything quite as good, in my opinion, since. So I'm very excited to go back to it, and I think what I'd like to do, seeing as we never really did any impressions for the meat grinder thing as well that came out last year with like the wave-based survival mode, I'm kind of hoping to maybe update the review for Saints and Sinners once this comes out, and judge whether it could be upgraded or downgraded or whatever.
There's definitely room for it for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what other people say about the Saints and Sinners update. I'm definitely looking forward to impressions of the Tales from Galaxy's Edge Part 2 game, especially to see if it's going to be along the same lines of the last game. Like, I think some people are a bit disappointed with it. Maybe it was a bit too short. I didn't play it. I know that rest in peace, David did it. He reviewed it.
Yeah, he gave it 3 stars, and he said it felt like half the game it was meant to be. So and that obviously ended up being very literally true. And it's weird. It's kind of weird that it's fallen in the same month as the second part of Jurassic World as well, and we don't know what approach they're going to have for that. If they're going to pay for that, if they're going to ask you to pay for that, or if that will be a free update. And I remember writing this editorial last year that was saying it's a shame that the Quest 2 launch lineup is filled with these kind of rushed games that didn't need to be split in two, because again, I'm someone that likes to play this stuff as a whole, and I'm not really interested in playing half a game, forgetting how to play it, then coming back a year later and having to remember for the first half of the game how to play it.
Yeah. Vader Immortal pushed the boundaries on what was acceptable. Like, that was probably the bare minimum of it being episodic.
Well, it's the way they sold it as well. Like the other two, Galaxy's Edge and Jurassic World, it wasn't until they were out that people realized, oh, actually, there's more to come. Whereas Vader Immortal was billed as that episodic thing. And I think it's kind of a shame they've taken a year to come out. Obviously, development's very hard, takes very, very long. We're in the middle of a pandemic and everything like that. But now it's kind of like, oh, so last Oculus's Christmas lineup was 2 half games, and this Oculus's Christmas lineup so far is the conclusions to those bits. And who knows if Resident Evil is going to be here? Who knows if After the Fall is going to come in and save the day at the last minute or something?
So we will have people are asking questions about Space Pirate Trainer in the comments, and we should be having the developers into our studio on launch week to go over Space Pirate Trainer in depth. People asking about whether they can have just one copy on the game on multiple headsets. We'll have to find that out with the developers and ask them and really explore it. The reason I sort of segue into bringing up Space Pirate Trainer is they're doing that thing that we're seeing other indie devs do, which is releasing a massive update for their game at a different price than they released it before, and packing in a whole heck of a lot more content into that higher price for buyers going forward. Pistol Whip, I can't remember the other 2 examples, but there were like 3 examples of this.
Wizards.
Yeah, Waltz of the Wizard being the 3rd example of this happening right now, where you're upping the price, changing the name of the title, and giving out this whole thing for a higher price. I don't know why these projects aren't being billed that way. It would make a lot more sense. Like Vader Immortal should have been released not episodically, but maybe just keep raising the price as you go.
Yeah, that would have worked for that. That would have not
for one singular, like, Imagine seeing it being stacked on top, where it started out as 10, but I have no idea how much Vader Immortal is. But
I think
imagine
it was
if like
15, maybe 10.
Yeah,
so
15,
10, 15, 20.
and
Release it
another
at 10,
15.
15, 20.
So it wouldn't. You're saying it wouldn't be like equal. Chuck on another 15 on top.
No,
just-
I think. Are you
no.
saying that if people got in at the ground floor, all
Yeah,
they'd
if you
ever
got
have
it
to
in
pay
the-
is $10, and then
Yep.
if the next update, that's actually an interesting model for that. That would have been interesting.
And then you get 2 episodes at 15, and you get the 3rd episode included with that price, or you go and get it when it's finally released as a trilogy for $20.
Yeah, because I mean, the other half to that is that it's kind of annoying that never got like a one definitive download destination place, Vader Immortal. Even when they released the whole thing on PlayStation VR, it was 3 separate episode downloads, even though you couldn't get them singly. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. I think I think that's what we're going to see with Galaxy's Edge as well. I think they're going to build that as a different experience, but who knows? We'll see. But I'm looking forward to.
Go for it.
I'm looking forward to Space Pirate Trainer as well. Me and you have to go and find space for it, don't we, Z? I don't know if I don't think we'll be able to.
Oh god, yeah.
Remember, the game is going to have both arena mode and just straight up multiplayer mode. So you guys can do a versus game, one room against another room, just same old room scale, standing room only game that we all have known for Space Pirate Trainer. I have scouted every place in Northwest Arkansas for the ultimate place to play this, and learning all sorts of things about how public use works.
Yeah, I think. It's just such a shame because it is such a cool idea. Do you think VR would work in a sports hall with like the really bright lights? Well, the lights are really bright. Like a football pitch with floodlights, wouldn't that completely like just kill the trackers? I don't know.
Oh, outside. FYI, you've
I've frozen again. I was kind of hoping it would correct itself, but it doesn't seem like it's going to. So I'll duck out.
Yeah, so I think it'll work. At my place right now, I've got outdoor spaces that I could use like in the morning or evening when the light is not direct. But as soon as like the sun goes overhead, it'll cause problems, and then it gets dark. So the tracking gets lost unless you've got really direct light. And I was checking out the local community center, and they've got this giant big basketball court. But they were telling me, as far as the rules of like the center, they won't let me kind of like mark off a corner of the floor just for VR. So I would have to risk someone throwing a basketball essentially at the backboard, bouncing it off the backboard, hitting me in the head as I'm running at full speed.
Oh my god,
in Space Pirate Arena.
I think you should do it.
Will the Space Pirate experience be accessible on Quest 1 headsets? I want to say I think it was compatible with Quest 1, but you're going to have to wait for us to have the interview with them to double check that, where we will cover that definitely. I think I saw a comment on it, but I'm really not certain.
But thank you, Den Frill, for the $5. Really appreciated. Hopefully you can join us next week as the Space Pirate Trainer devs hopefully join us live right here to answer questions and such. Hello.
How
are you doing?
Moving.
I got the whole your tracking's been lost, and you're like, no, it hasn't. Don't lie to me.
It hasn't. Oh my
liar. It's on the headset and lying to me.
Oh, here we go. Sidebick VR, thank you again. I have played SideQuest arena games by renting out dance practice halls. Point.
Ooh,
Need good internet.
Yeah.
I wonder
if
you could have
I called an indoor tennis place and left a message on a voicemail, which is like the first voicemail message I've left in at least 8 years, while seeking for a place to play this game.
They must be like, millennials. They even want to use their smartphones on the courts now.
my sports hall back home when I was growing up, they had curtains coming across so it could split up. So someone could be doing, like, I used to go for karate lessons. So karate lessons or badminton or basketball, whatever there was also a judo class next to us. So that would cut it up pretty nicely. And I wonder if like not more like leisure centers have that kind of thing going on.
Yeah, that could be cool. Me and you should go up a mountain in the Peak District next to us and try it up the top of a mountain. Just see
and fall down to
see
our
who the
death.
real winner is then. VR Bug, you just asked if you missed the Devolver game announcement. We didn't announce a Devolver game. That was a separate story. But the Alchemy Labs just announced a game called Cosmonius High, which we did talk about, and we've talked about what Devolver might announce that they've teased later on. Yes. Sorry.
Again, check out UploadVR.com for all those stories. I mean, it's safe to say, with all the games coming out in September that we know of, going back to last week's discussion, there aren't any Game of the Year type things.
I guess not.
I don't think so.
I'm hopeful for Song in the Smoke. I just think visually it looks a little
choppy.
Rough, and you kind of know once you get into an experience like that, if it's, you know, like if there's going to be problems with it that you just kind of have to mentally put to the back of your head if you're going to enjoy the game, but also then you kind of rule it out as a Game of the Year or something contender straight away. Yeah, I think we just have to wait and see if Lone Echo After the Fall or Resi 4, which kind of sucks because they're all they're either zombie shooters or Oculus exclusives. Like it doesn't matter if Lone Echo 2 is the best game of the VR game of the year in a sort of way, because they're going to release it exclusively on a dead store. So it would be a real shame if the best thing to talk about from this year was that, which is kind of pessimistic view of it. But
Him level 3, thank you so much for the $5. He says, sorry if I missed it, but have you looked at Vermilion? Would love your take and how export as 3D objects play into metaverse art concepts.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks too.
Yeah,
go
thank
for
you
it.
very much.
Yeah, Harry has an interview up with the dev there that you can go and find on our channel. We also have a full transcription of that interview, so you can read through it alongside listening along. And it was a really helpful interview because it kind of covered the basics of how that app works, exactly what kind of simulated art it does, sort of benefits you get out of doing physical art versus virtual art, and the sort of benefits that you get uniquely to doing that kind of art in virtual space. That's all covered in Harry's interview with the developer there. Hopefully we can maybe drop a link to it in the description for this after the podcast is recorded, so that people can listening afterwards can read that piece. A very, very interesting piece of art software there that I'm curious to see where they take it in the future, because the developer is kind of like learning how it all works as they go.
It's interesting because there's also Paint VR, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Which just started a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Which I think just wanted like 30 grand or so.
Yeah, I don't think it's 3D art, but it's very, very, very realistic painting on a massive board with various paintbrushes and stuff like that. So, yeah, sorry, Ian, carry on.
It's just, I was trying to remember the second part of that question there. And the other part of the question, I think, was dealing with 3D export and how object sharing is going to work. Well, of course, Sketchfab was just purchased by Epic Games, the creator of Unreal Engine, the most popular game engine for sort of big budget studios. If you're going for a big project, you probably will be using Unreal Engine as your tool set. Obviously, there's plenty of exceptions to that where people are using Unity or something else, but Unreal is very popular there, and they bought Sketchfab, which is kind of the leading 3D object hosting service, and we're going to have to see what that exactly means for Fortnite and the metaverse concept that Epic Sweeney keeps pushing. Or Epic Sweeney?
Epic
That's what I
Sweeney.
called him.
Epic
Yeah, Tim
Sweeney.
Sweeney over there. Tim Sweeney over there is sort of putting together all the pieces for their tool set there, and Sketchfab is going to play a very big part of that. And I'm curious, kind of, Google failed in its efforts there to do its own service, closed it down, and Sketchfab was kind of like left on its own as this object hosting service. I'd be really curious to see how Apple and Facebook kind of answer in the next year.
Just throwing it back to the games that are out this month, which I think I'm kind of through talking about apart from. I want to put a shout out to Ionia, because that's very, very interesting. That's going to be a multi-platform release. We played a Steam VR demo earlier in the year, right at the start of the year or something, and the visual art direction in the PC VR version, at least, was really, really striking. And I get the sense that it's going to be one of those times where I'm going to run into a lot of puzzles that feel like a bit of a slog. But I only get that sense from the trailers. Actually, the 5 or 10 minute demo that they put out I actually quite enjoyed. So I'm very hopeful that they've got something special on their hands, because I would love to just meet all these interesting creatures they've come up with and explore this lush, vibrant world they've come up with, and not have these puzzles be here as oh, I don't want to do this,
I think you have become confused. I don't think you remember how frustrated we were getting, and
Ionia.
Yeah, so there was a bit where we had to keep going up rope, and it'd have the golden, you need to do this rope, but it wasn't actually that obvious or that logical, I guess, for us. I found it a little bit annoying because there was a lot of back and forth with a lot of stuff as well. Had to go back to this person and then go try something else and then go back. I don't know. There's also the environmental angle on it, because for our showcase, they showed a trailer that was just entirely which percentage of the game?
Well, it's I think
$5
for every, or maybe it's 30%. I can't quite remember, but it's definitely a very
it's going
cool,
to a charity, an
thing
environmental
charity.
Yeah. Which totally makes sense. But I think they're really going heavy on it as well. It's an interesting one. I want to see how it kind of evolves as it releases and how people take it as well.
Yeah. So I know I'm cautiously. I'm cautiously trepidatious, I guess I would say, not cautiously optimistic about Ionia. We'll have to see where it comes down to. But other than that, I'm looking forward to diving into some of this stuff this month. But I think Aftershocks is probably what's going to be what takes it for me.
Adam Hartsaw is looking forward to Clash of Chefs. Interesting pick there.
Yeah, that is an interesting pick. There's a lot of those kinds of games out there, and we all really enjoy Cookout. If Clash of Chefs is able to simulate the Overcooked thing just as a one-person experience, that would be fun. That'll be cool, and I like that it's got a head-to-head kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Now that it is 10 a.m. PT, I think, Ian.
10:05.
Sorry?
Yep.
10:05, 10:04.
Sorry, I'm being very
Ian, you can tell us about Puzzling Places, which our review is now live, written by Harry Baker, our
Young
very
Harold.
own Harry Baker. But yeah, Ian's here to fill us in on it. Take it away, Ian.
Yeah, so this is obviously another puzzle game, very similar to kind of Cubism, where you've got lots of little things you can interconnect in front of you. But it's its own thing, because they're using photogrammetry scans of real-world locations and letting you pick the kind of puzzle size breakdown, whether you want 25 or up to, I think it's 400 pieces is the largest size.
400. I think it's 400, yeah.
Yeah, so it ends up being a lot of pieces here that you can break these puzzles up into, and we got a little confused, or Harry got a little confused trying to find where the little page button was at the bottom to get to the additional pieces floating in this shelf-like way. Uh, and then there's ways to kind of group the pieces together into a pile, kind of like the same way you might do a physical puzzle where you're working on the outside edge pieces first, and then working your way in from there. You can kind of do that with some of the group puzzles here, and it's so darn satisfying when you start seeing these pictures start coming together. I absolutely love it, and it really, really captures exactly what you get out of the real physical 2D jigsaw puzzles. You get that really satisfying feeling as the picture starts to coming together, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how some of these things stick together at three in 3D space. So we should have the developers of Puzzling Places over there at Realities.io into our studio tomorrow for a live interview where we can talk in depth about this quite a bit more. But definitely one thing I want to talk to them about is me being the geek that I am. Have you ever seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
Yeah, not for a long, long time, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's this key part of the story, a spoiler for the 90s of movie there, but they've got these pages of instructions to build some kind of object, and all of the pages are presented in 3D, and you actually have to piece them together around corner pieces, and it's this big reveal in the story that the map for creating this object is in thinking in 3D space and folding pages that are flat into a 3D shape. And I kept thinking of that analogy with the way these pieces come together in various 3D models, where you kind of have to realize that you're dealing with things that don't bend like a normal jigsaw puzzle, and it can kind of mess with your brain if you've grown up on 2D puzzle making. To have these pieces fit together in such different ways than the normal jigsaw puzzle.
Two little anecdotes about this. First of all, I think this is really, really cool, and I haven't done it myself yet, but it's one of those kind of things that you just look at and you think, yeah, that works. Because one thing it's doing is gamifying Google Earth VR, right? And Google Earth VR is still to this day one of the best things you can do inside a headset. It communicates the power of VR so quickly, and this is actually giving you like a whole game to build around that, which I think is super cool. And based on what you've played of it, Ian, how simple and graspable is it? Because one thing that is really interesting for me is that my dad loves puzzles. He loves doing them. And my dad is also a stroke survivor, so he only has use of one hand, and it's easy for him to get like a bit flustered and confused by games. And for me, like there was Resolution Games put out their first ever game was like this totally free solitaire jester thing where you could play solitaire in VR. And what worked amazingly for him there was that it actually had gaze-based interaction. So to do the moves he needed to do, all he needed to do was look at it, and that was incredible. They didn't even plan that as like an accessibility feature. It was on Gear VR, and that was the best way to handle the control. How is this? Does it overcomplicate the UI too much so that someone might struggle with those elements, or is it actually a pretty easy to pick up and play thing?
So it's a fantastic question what you've asked, because it really goes to the core of how difficult VR is to use in general for the general population, and this being such a clear example of a game that you might want to hand some people that doesn't want to play Space Pirate Trainer or fire guns. They just want to put together a puzzle. So this definitely has that appeal. The issue I have there is the gripping action of pulling some of these pieces over to you from the wall. It's this kind of standard gesture that we're getting used to now with I Expect You to Die, with Half-Life Alyx having these gravity pull functions. But it's really dependent on how visible the reticle is, like how easy it is to see what you've got selected at any given moment. Half-Life Alyx, those objects light up as you're pointing around on them and you know you've got your hand on it. This one was a little bit hard to see as you're going around, kind of the selecting the puzzle pieces on the other wall. And you've got to, you could work on that just a little bit more, and you've got a way more accessible tool. And, I hate critique, like it worked for me. I was able to get all these objects just fine, but it's so hard to tell as someone who has like trial and errored so many of these worlds, how hard that interaction would be to grasp for someone who has not touched a VR headset ever before. And to Harry's point, one of his things on this is, at least at launch, this game doesn't include hand tracking as a mode of input. And I can only imagine, like, I put in somebody into the hand tracking only version of Facebook's introduction experiences, the robot
First
demo.
steps,
yeah, I did the hand tracking only version of that, and it was kind of a mess for a new to VR person going in there for the first time. And so you can kind of see why they wouldn't include that, at least at launch here. Because if you don't have that selection right for dozens of objects around you, it could be really frustrating. So people in the comments were asking whether this is on PlayStation or Quest. It's on Quest as of today, and then coming to PSVR is confirmed for PSVR, but I don't believe we have a date for that yet.
And my other funny anecdote on the more lighthearted side is that one of the locations in this game is a French
not
beach
lighthearted at all.
A French beach called Biarritz, where me and Zeena once nearly drowned surfing. So we can't wait to get back in there. We can't wait to go back there and revisit the scene in VR.
Yep.
What a
we got saved.
Warm,
it's okay. Obviously, we're still here. But Riptides. Oh, guys, read into Riptides and read into how to get out of them. No, honestly, please, because it's genuinely very scary and horrible. So please,
Zeena just started sponsoring a lifeboat service in the UK.
Yeah, consider giving to the RNLI.
If you're in the UK, maybe if you're in the US, give to a US-based Coastal Guard service.
Yeah. But yeah, just look into that anyway. Interesting.
Yeah, so
cool.
I'm looking forward to playing this. I love that. I think they're going to just build on it, aren't they? I think it's just such a great launch platform, and it's just this. I would pay every time they release like 4 new puzzles. If they did it for like $4 or $5 every time, I would be like, yeah. If this is a cool location that I'm really interested in, if it's a bunch of really cool stuff in Tokyo or Realities.io are in the chat and they've heard my hilarious anecdotes. I think it's really cool, and I think there's a really great opportunity for DLC and just building a platform like so many other VR games.
We have Realities.io, the developer of Puzzling Places, in our comments. If you have any questions about it, it includes, I believe, 16 puzzles at launch, but they've obviously got a lot more in their library that they can turn to as they build out that platform for people. It's, I can't wait to, as I think Facebook adds more APIs to the Oculus Quest developer tool set. I mean, pass through, things like that, as things get better, are going to be such a great addition for puzzling games in general. We've already sort of had Harry go in there and try that with Cubism. I can't wait to see what this looks like through a pass-through lens.
Well, sorry, we talk about how Demio is a good tabletop RPG massively enhanced by the social element of VR. I can't help but think that at some point this could be the same thing, right? You take your Quest with you, and then let's say you're on a work trip and you like doing puzzles with your family. You can still have that experience when you take a Quest 2 with you or something like that. It's just one of those simple real world things that you can have an enhanced and still intimate connection with doing. And I think that could be a very cool way to do it in the future.
I'm so excited to see this game go from this concept that was released on the side Quest, right, before App Lab, and then becoming sort of community funded, going all the way to full product release on 2 of the biggest headset platforms there are. Really kind of shows I love that. So the Realities.io is known for doing these captures going back several years now, and it's amazing to me to see them zero in on this gamifying idea. They were
Yeah.
upfront with us from the very start of development of how this was almost like an accidental realization of, oh, if this could be a puzzle. All these pieces we have on this computer look like a puzzle, and it kind of went from there. I love that way of developing, and it's kind of such a great example of how this initial idea born from like capturing the world and presenting those captures had to be honed around a basic game, like reward based game system where you're kind of trying to piece together a puzzle. Color Space, I think, was the other one that I'm thinking of, where it was a coloring book around you built from a drawing, and you're filling in the spaces around you. These games like just had to be gamified a little bit, and they turned into magical little pieces of software that were so satisfying to play. And they kind of like started with this feeling of experimentation, and we're seen through to the conclusion. But I guess I just bring that up as one way to market for these developers who have been here for 5 or 6 years and tooling around with various ideas and still finding a way to a very large market by honing in on very smart ideas that just, I don't know, in this case, just happened by pure accident. I love that.
Yeah, the thing that I particularly love about that is before, I guess, games like this, photogrammetry was this really, really, really cool idea. But it was mostly associated with like 360 kind of videos, or oh, you're going into this tomb now, and it's like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not as cool as it could be. I mean, it's amazing technology, but people don't quite know what to do with it. But like you said, Ian, they've gamified it.
Yeah, you mean stuff like in the lab, right, where they went and took out a bunch of pictures in the Pacific Northwest area, and you could go stand up there, and maybe you could bring the little dog and throw fetch with him.
Yeah,
but it's just
yeah,
that,
and
that's what that Brink Traveler app as well is going to be doing on Quest and PC this month. So yeah, no, I get what you mean, because also at the same time, like photogrammetry is really, really cool, but just inherently there's something weirdly off about it when you're standing in those life-size scale environments right now, right? Because you still can't interact with it, like you're saying, in the way that you might want to.
Yeah.
So to find that really cool, and again, like Trainset, still to this day, in my opinion, Trainset VR is best VR. Diorama VR is where you instantly get that immediate like, oh cool, this is a little thing, like there's Astro and I'm playing with him, or there's Quill and I really believe she's there. That kind of stuff works the best still, I think.
Yep.
And this is
it works great for the it works great for the photogrammetry models. I mean, it's such a great, where the imperfections in the models are sort of minimized in front of you, so you're only dealing with the toy size version of the model. It's sort of like a perfect overlap there. I really love that they zeroed in on that.
Cool. So as Ian said, it's available on Quest. I believe it's for about $14.99, I think. But check that out on the store, and it's coming to PSVR as well. And you guys got any finishing thoughts or little ditties that you want to spit out?
Let me just toss on there that it's really cool when you've got a 3D object that has both an inside and outside. It's so neat to be able to kind of like one of those puzzles, like as a train car. You were talking about train cars, and the outside of the train car is really, really red, but the inside of the train car is really, really blue. And you're putting together both this object that like you can piece together both the inside and the outside of the piece is kind of a magical thing. Really, really neat effect in this app, and it had a big impression on me, and I would love to see. I can't wait to see how they update this game and add more puzzles to it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I don't. I guess I would just say, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that. I think it's going to be a cool week coming up. Going like we were saying at the start of the podcast, make sure to look out for our first kind of unplugged content next week, which is going to be really, really fun. There's a PlayStation showcase next Thursday, but we'll have another podcast before then, and they've said they're not showing VR at that, so there's not too much to think about there. And also, we'll probably look out for some coverage of the Venice Film Festival this week or next, because I've been playing some of the experiences there this week. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to talk about them, but if I'm not, then don't look out for that. But some of the stuff in there, and I'm talking specifically about games, some of the stuff in there is really, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to talking more about that. So maybe that's something we can talk about next week.
Wonderful. And as always, you can check out all of the stories and the reviews and the September games list over at uploadvr.com. Please join us next week. Again, the Space Pirate Trainer people are going to be joining us live, so you can ask them all sorts of things. And same time, same place, next Thursday. Thank you again to everyone, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.